Hello, viewers. Welcome to Unacademy, India's largest e learning platform. I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Simran Bajaj, and I'm currently pursuing my law degree, that is BA LLB Honours from Amity University, Uttar Pradesh. I have a teaching experience of almost 2 years, having taught students of class 11th and 12th from CBSE background, and I hold certifications in advanced contract drafting and cyber laws. You can use my promo code SIMRAN10 to purchase your Unacademy Plus subscription. It is given at the bottom of the slide. Yeah. So, what does an Unacademy Plus subscription hold for you? It provides you daily live classes, live tests, and quizzes that evaluate your preparation with our regular mock tests and quizzes, and you get a detailed analysis of your performance. We offered structured courses. The courses are structured in line with your exam syllabus that help you to prepare best for it, and there is an unlimited access. One subscription gives you an access to all our live and recorded content to watch from the comfort of any of your devices. You get a chance to prepare with the top and best of educators. So, starting off with Class 12 Business Studies, the subject code that CBSE has allotted to this subject is 054. So, the chapter that we're going to start today is Nature and Significance of Management, Part 1. The topics that I will be covering in this video are definition of management and the characteristics of management. So, having a look at the distribution of marks, as you can see, the first four chapters have been allotted a total of 16 marks. This comes out to be for chapter 1 4 marks. So, your first chapter will carry 4 marks in your 80 marks paper, right? So, starting off with the concept of management. Now, what we are talking about here is business management. Business management, right? So, first, before we go on to management, let us first define what is business. Business, you have studied in your class 11 that it is an occupation or a profession wherein an individual or an organization undertakes activities such as production, purchase, or sale or exchange of goods or services with the primary objective of earning profit and ultimately satisfying the needs of its target customers. Now, management is a process that involves planning, organizing, actuating, controlling an enterprise's operations to achieve coordination of human and material resources which are essential in the effective and efficient attainment of objectives. So, management basically consists of a series of interrelated functions. What are these functions? As I just mentioned, they are planning, organizing, actuating, and controlling. We will be discussing all of these in detail in the further modules and videos to come. So, now I have highlighted three words here: process, effective, and efficient. Process involves a series of functions or activities. These are the process basically involves planning, organizing, staffing, directing, and controlling. So it is an entire process. It happens gradually and it happens step by step. Management is a step by step process. The next word that I've highlighted is effective. Management should be effective and efficient in its performance. Now, what are these two words, effective and efficient? Don't they mean the same? We often use these words interchangeably, but they are two different terms having two different meanings. We will discuss this in the upcoming slides. So, management consists of a series of interrelated functions that are performed by all managers. So, management is a very popular term and it is used for mainly taking charge of different activities, taking responsibility of a number of activities that happen in an enterprise. So, management is an activity which is necessary wherever there is a group of people working in the organization. So, management helps to attain a coordination of human and material resources. We put some raw materials to use in our business, and we have some human effort that is constantly working, putting their minds to work in the entire process of the business of like if it's a process of production of any product. So human resource puts their minds to work in order to attain the set objectives of a business. So management has the responsibility of taking charge of all the activities that are going in and around a business. So people in an organization are performing diverse tasks, but ultimately they are working towards achieving one common goal. For example, a formal organization like a company, it has various departments: the sales department, the production department, the HR department, the finance department. All of these departments, they have their specified roles and functions to play. They at times, and not at times, they always, in fact, they always do have their own set objectives. For example, the sales department will have a sales target. Similarly, the finance department will have a target or an objective to trying to reduce the costs of operations. So all of these departments that exist in an organization, they have their own set objectives. But when it comes to the management, what is management? Management is management of all these various activities that are going on in a business. So all the people and all the various departments that are a part of an organization, they're working towards the same goal. Despite having individual departmental goals, they are working having towards achieving the common organizational objective. So sorry. So now we highlighted three terms here. Process includes planning, organizing, staffing, directing, and controlling. We will be discussing these in detail in the upcoming um, chapters and modules. Now let's talk about the terms effective and efficient, which we happen to use interchangeably. This is the definition analysis. What the three words that we have pointed out? These are the words, and we have discussed process. We are yet to discuss effectiveness and efficiency. The concept of effectiveness and efficiency. Now, we use the terms effectiveness and efficiency interchangeably. Effectiveness means doing the work. It means finishing a given task. Effectiveness in management is concerned with doing the right task completing all the activities that are associated with that task and achieving the goals. These goals can obviously be short term or long term, depending on what the organization has planned for itself, right? So effectiveness is simply meeting your commitments as in when they become due. However, effectiveness ignores the concept of cost reduction. It involves completing a given task on time, irrespective of the fact that it is taking longer time or it is taking a shorter time to complete that given task. Now let's understand what is efficiency. Efficiency is associated with not being able to meet the target but being able to cut down the cost of production. Now, for example, a manufacturing unit, the manufacturing department of an enterprise, has a set target that is to be achieved within a span of 1 week, production of 500 units within that particular week. Now, there could be two situations, the two situations that we have discussed. The first one is the managers, the employees can be effective in achieving their target. For example, in the process of achieving your target production, you operate on double shifts. So that means more consumption of electricity. You have to pay more to the labor because they're working on double shifts. So the cost subsequently increases. At the end of the day, you are able to meet that target production of 500 units. But for that, for the production of those 500 units, the cost should have been, the ideal cost should have been, say for example, 50,000 rupees for all these 500 units. But the cost that was incurred, the actual cost that was incurred was, say for example, 80,000 rupees, because you had to operate on double shifts, there was more consumption of electricity, you had to pay more to the labor, and n number of other costs that are involved in production. So there comes out to be a disparity of rupees 30,000, right? In the production of those 500 units, there is a disparity of 30,000 rupees. So here you have met your target production for that week, but where the discrepancy lies is that you are incurring a higher cost, right? So it is, effectiveness is just associated with the completion of your task. For example, you take an example of yourself. In school, you are given projects that you have to complete, right? So let's say for example, the you buy all the material for your project, um, and it costs you say 500. One project costs you 500. You bring your sheets, your artistic material, whatever you have to um, you have to the things that you require in order to make your project. Now you're not able to you feel your project submission is due after 2 days from today, say on 16th August your project submission is due, and 2 days before that, that is today, you feel that you will not be able to meet your deadline. So what you do is, in order to complete your project, you take it to a stationery shop. The people who make projects for you, there are places who make projects for their students. So that the shopkeeper tells you that, okay, you're giving me all the material, I'll make your project within a day so that you're able to submit it on time, you're able to meet your deadline, but I will charge you another 500 rupees because I'm putting my effort. So I will charge 500 rupees for the effort that is being put in by me. And since you're giving me such short amount of time to complete this project, so I'll charge you this fee. This is my fee. So you have already spent 500 in buying the material for your project. Now you have to spend another 500 to complete your project, right? So that is how it works. You are able to uh, submit your project on time, you are able to meet your deadline, but at the same time you are incurring a double cost for it. So you have met your deadline, but you have occurred a incurred a higher cost of production. On the same hand, let taking the example of the 500 units, as we discussed in the concept of effectiveness, the 500 units that are supposed to be manufactured within 1 week. Now the manager is able to cut down on the costs of production. They have, cut down on the labor costs, the electricity costs, and the other XYZ costs that are involved in the production of uh, the 500 units. But in the process of cutting down of cost, it is realized that we have been able to produce only 400 units on the last day of the week, whereas the units produced should have been 500. So you are lagging by 100 units. At the same time, you have reduced your cost of production. But it doesn't matter if your product is not able to reach in the market, if you are not able to supply as much as the demand is for your product, what benefit is the cost cutting doing to you, right? So here it says consider the following situations. The first one is completing the target production, we have already discussed. The second is being able to cut down on the production costs. Now we'll take the example of the project. Okay, so you have to submit your project on the 16th of August. Now you say that I have five more such projects to make. I'll cut down on the cost. So one project actually costs you 500 rupees, all the material that you buy and everything, 500 for each project, right? So now you say that I will use this material worth rupees 500 for two projects. You are able to make your project, you are able to make it by yourself, but you're not in the process of cutting down on the costs of the material that you're using. You're not able to complete the project as in when it becomes due. So there is no point of being able to cut down costs and not being able to meet your targets. So the ideal situation that should be in any management, that should be a part of any and every management practice, is that if the manager is able to meet the target production on time, at the same time maintaining the cost of production, that manager is able to maintain a balance between effectiveness and efficiency. So every successful management should have a balance between its effectiveness and its efficiency, right? So efficiency increases when the same benefit can the same benefit or output can be derived with fewer resources at use. So management is obviously concerned with efficient use of the resources because they reduce costs and ultimately lead to higher profits. But it is also important that the management is able to achieve its goals, that is effectiveness in terms of achieving goals, with minimum resources, that is with efficiency. A management has to achieve its goals, the target production that it has set for itself, at the same time using the least possible resources, so that a good amount of profit can be generated. So usually high efficiency is associated with high effectiveness, which is the aim of all the managers of all the organizations throughout. But the undue emphasis on high efficiency, that is cutting down on the cost of production, cutting down the usage of your resources, and being able to generate more output. So the emphasis on high efficiency without being effective is at times desirable in management practices in order to generate profit, but poor management is due to both inefficiency and ineffectiveness of management. So I hope you're clear with this concept of effectiveness and efficiency. We'll move on to the characteristics of management. Now, the first characteristic is that management is a goal oriented process. Now, every organization has some set of basic goals, a set of targets, a set of objectives that every organization wants to achieve. So, these goals, targets, or objectives are the basic reason for the existence of any organization. So, these goals, these objectives that an organization puts down for itself, that the organization exists for, should be simple and be very clearly stated so that they are easy to understand by the people who are putting in their efforts, by the employees that have been put to work. These objectives should be clear to the employees. So these should be simple and these should be very clearly stated. So the success of any management activity is assessed by the achievements of the predetermined goals or objectives that every organization has. So, goal oriented means purposeful. Purposeful. Management is a purposeful activity. Management exists for the achievements of the goals that are set by an organization. The duty, the responsibility that lies upon management is to see whether these goals are being achieved, whether the organization is working in the right direction towards achieving these goals and objectives. Since we're talking about goals, we'll take an example. We'll take an example of a very popular NGO throughout India, that is Goonj. Goonj works towards providing relief in cases of natural disasters. It aims to provide disaster relief and humanitarian aid and community development when there is a natural disaster that occurs. So, the aim and objective of an organization like Goonj is to provide help, provide a helping hand to the people who have suffered, who are victims of a natural disaster. At the same time, taking an example of a retail outlet who deals in a particular, which deals in a particular product, the it will have a set of objectives. One is obviously of the which is the object of every business is to maximize profit, but that cannot be the sole objective of every business, right? You cannot, your every business activity is undertaken with the primary objective of earning profit. Now you say that since it's a retail store, its only objective will be to generate profit. That's not the case. Uh, Apart from profit earning, which is a primary objective, which is the primary goal of an organization, there are other goals which work towards attaining higher profits. For example, producing good quality products should be one of the objectives, one of the goals of a retail outlet, right? Selling good quality products. Secondly, the objective of a production house or a retail store could be, you could say, apart from profit generation and apart from producing good quality product, is to satisfy the needs of your customers. When you know say, see, if I produce say for example pens, I'm producing pens. Now I have to monitor my market. I have to see what kind of products are in demand in the market. um, should I engage in the production of ball pens? Should I engage in the production of gel pens? Should I engage in the production of fountain pens? So you analyze your market. What do your consumers expect from you, and you fulfill that demand. That could be another goal or objective of a business. So business is a purposeful activity. It is a goal oriented process. Why do we call it a process? It is a process because it entails a number of steps that help in the functioning of management. We have discussed they are planning, organizing, staffing, directing, and controlling. Moving on to the second characteristic, that is management is all pervasive. परवेसिव का क्या मतलब होता है? For some of you it might be a new word. It means existing at all levels. Now there are three main levels that exist in an organizational structure. The first one is the top level, the second one is the middle level, the third one is the functional level. You will never refer to the functional level as the lower level of management. It is not called the lower level of management. The right, I'm so sorry, the right way to refer to it is the functional level of management. Now, management is required at all levels in an organization, at all kinds of organization. The activities that are a part of managing an enterprise are common to all the types of organizations. These could be economic organizations, social organizations, political organizations, everywhere. Every kind of organization you see, you will require a management that is looking after the various activities, that is monitoring the various activities that are going on in an organization. So management is all pervasive. So um, you name any form of organization, you name it, be it clubs, hospitals, political parties, colleges, schools, every organization, every form of business needs to have a management. Wherever more than one person is engaged in the working, management becomes necessary, because you need a coordination between the human effort that is being put in and the resources that are being put to use um, to carry out the business process. So, whether it is a small business, a small firm which may be engaged in trading, or a bigger or a more formal setup, you name companies like Tata Iron and Steel and Reliance, and you name any other big company, management is required everywhere uh, where there is more than one person involved, irrespective of the size or type of activity that is being conducted, right? So let's take the example of your school itself. Your school also has a management. Every year you see new students coming into schools, new admissions taking place after the end of every academic year. So you will have a department for managing admissions. Then you will have a cleaning and housekeeping department that looks after um, the tidiness, the hygiene situation of the school. So there are various departments. There are wherever there are more than one, wherever there is more than one person involved, you need management, and it is required at all levels. There are top level managers, there are middle level managers, and then there are functional level managers. You will understand this concept in the further modules when we'll discuss the levels of management. Moving on to the next characteristic, that it is continuous in nature. Management is a continuous process. Now, the process of management entails continuous, composite, but separate functions. The functions that we have already discussed are planning, organizing, staffing, directing, and controlling. This is what the management cycle involves. This is what management is all about. There is nothing more to management other than planning, organizing, staffing, directing, and controlling. Now, it is a continuous process, it is a cycle. It starts from planning all over again. For example, there is a production target of an enterprise for the month end of August, that there should be 5,000 units produced on 30 as on 31st August 2020. Now, you have a target, you have a set objective for this month. It is a short term objective since it involves a very short span of time. So, the objective is to produce 5,000 units as on 31st August 2020. Now, what will the management process, the business process include? One, it will include is you'll have to plan everything out. How are you going to go about achieving the target production of 5,000 units by the end of this month? So you start off with planning that okay, this department will have this set of functions, and by this date we will have finished say 3,000 units of productions, and then further on we'll focus on the remaining 2,000 units. So you will have to make a plan, you'll have to have a set plan, the lines on which you will be working on, that is planning. Then you will organize everything, that chalo, this department will do this work, this department will do this work, the other department will do what work. So you have to organize everything, you have to organize the human as well as the material resources that are available with you. Then is staffing. You'll have to employ um, apt personnel for the various job positions that you have. For example, in the finance departments, you will require people who specialize in accounts, in the various other fields of financing, costs accounting, and cost analysis. You will need personnel for that. At the same time, the Department of Production will require labor, they will require a production manager, and so on. So there will be various number of departments, and they will have to be staffed with apt personnel. Then we come on to directing. We're just going over the process of management and how is it continuous. We're still discussing the point where it's continuous. So talking of, we have discussed planning, organizing, staffing, and then we're talking about directing. The people that you have staffed, the people that you have employed in the organization will need some direction from you, that okay, by this day this department will have to finalize all the tenders. By this date, the production department will have to have produced, say, 2000 units. So you will have to direct the people that are in the organization towards the attainment of the goal that has been set. Then there is controlling. You have to impose control measures on employees to make sure that the work is being done in accordance with the plans that have been formulated, right? So by the end of the month, your target production is met, right? So this production target has been met. Now the management cycle comes to an end. But then when the new next month comes, say for the month of September, you have to have say 10,000 units produced because the demand for the product is very high. Now you'll have to start all over again with planning, then going on to organizing, then staffing, then directing, then controlling. Obviously, it is a continuous process, but in a formal organization where there is more stability, especially we call it stability of personnel, the functions like staffing, they don't need to be performed very repetitively. They are not very, functions like staffing are not very repetitive in nature. So this is why it is a continuous process. It all comes back to planning and it ends at controlling. Fine. So moving further on with management is multi-dimensional. The three main dimensions of management are management of work, management of people, and management of operations. Right? We will be discussing all of these turn by turn. Now, first, we will look at the dimension of work, the dimension of management of work. Now, in every organization, be it a business organization, be it a not for profit organization, in every organization, there is some work being done. For example, in a factory, in a textile factory, goods are being produced, garments are being produced. In a hospital, patients are being treated. In a school, students are being provided with education. In a grocery store, the need of the customers for uh, their respective needs of groceries are being fulfilled. So in every organization, some or the other work is being done. So since the performance of this work entails a number of activities, the management aims to translate the work in terms of goals. As we already have discussed, that management is a goal oriented activity. So management translates all the work in terms of goals that are to be achieved by an organization, and it has to assign and think of the means of achieving these set goals and targets. This involves the problems that are to be solved, that come forth in an organization, the decisions that are to be made, the plans that are to be prepared, the responsibilities that are assigned, and the authorities that is delegated amongst the employees. So every organization has some or the other work being performed in it, and the task of management is to translate that work in terms of goals. For example, in a factory where goods are being produced, the management will have to set targets, the management will have to set objectives for itself. The work is to produce goods, the respective goods that the the production unit specializes in. So the job of the management is to ensure that this work is translated into objectives and goals which are to be achieved by the organization. We are done with management of work. Then we move on to management of people. People are the human resource. The human resource. So, human resource or people, they're said to be an organization's greatest asset. Now, this question is also often asked in NCRT that why are people the greatest resource of an organization? How are we a resource? We are no raw material, right? We call, हम रिसोर्स किसको बोलते हैं? हम रिसोर्स उस चीज़ को बोलते हैं जो हम अपने काम में what we put to use in order to produce the desired product or service. How are we a resource? Humans are a resource because it is the human effort that is primary in converting raw materials into finished desirable products. So people are the greatest resource. People are an organization's greatest asset, because if there will be no people at work, if there will be no people, there will be no human resource putting its efforts in the various processes that are involved in the functioning of a business. The business will never exist. The things that we use will never come to existence. So it says, despite all developments in technology, getting work done through people is a major task by a manager. See, we as people are very different from each other. Two people who work in an organization, who become a part of an organization, will have different, they will come from different backgrounds, they will have different experiences in life, they will have a different socio-economic background, they will have different ideologies, different beliefs. So, all these factors that I have just mentioned, they influence your performance at work. Directly or indirectly, they will influence you as a professional person. So it is said that getting work done through people is a major task despite huge developments in technology. Obviously, technology has reduced uh, the extent of human effort that was earlier put into work. uh, People can now be more intellectual than doing more laborious work, thanks to computers and the internet, and everything has become more organized. But getting work done through people is a task because every individual will belong to a different background, having different needs and desires, having different expectations from the job that you are a part of. For example, some people, there will be a group of people in an organization who are only interested in the financial benefit that they're getting out of their job. They do their work and then they get paid for it. There are some people who will have needs of uh, being socially validated for their job. So they would want, they will work towards achieving the organizational goals with an expectation of achieving a social validation, with the aim of being appreciated for the work that they have done, for the effort that they have put in. At the same time, in an organization, there will be people who have much higher needs, much varied and various other needs. So that is why getting work done through people is not an easy task, because the management has to keep in mind the needs, the diverse needs of every individual, and you have to make an effort to maintain coordination of effort of all the individuals who have their own personal needs, their own personal uh, or their own diverse requirements and expectations from the job. So, management of people, it involves two main things. It deals with, it implies dealing with employees as individuals with diverse needs and different behaviors. And secondly, it involves a means of dealing with individuals as a group of people. As we already discussed, that every individual will have his or her own diverse need. At the same time, there will be sorry. At the same time, there will be a group of people who have the same set of needs. So the management has to learn to cater to the individual needs as well as the needs of people as a group of people, right? So, moving on to the third dimension, that is management of operations. Management of operations involves, it is a combination of management of work and the management of people. How is that? So, management of operations means, since there is a service or a product that is being provided by an organization. So, this requires a production process which involves the flow of input material, and you put the technology that you have, you put it to use, and this is a process of transformation of the raw material, all the inputs that you put in into a desired output. So operation requires the raw material and the human resource putting their minds at work, putting all their efforts in order to produce goods out for consumption, right? So moving on to the fifth characteristic of management, that is management is a group activity. Now, as we have already mentioned, that wherever there is more than one person involved, there is a need for management. Now, uh, in more formal setups, in more bigger organizations, there are various departments in an organization. See, for example, this is the organization, and there exist various departments, right? Various departments. These departments will have people. Every department will have a number of people to meet the objectives of the said department and of the organization as a whole. So, an organization has, it involves a collection of diverse individuals with various needs, and every member of the group has a different purpose, a different objective, and a different expectation with which they join the organization, and they become a part of the organization as members, and then they work towards a common organizational goals. So there will always be a group of people who are working towards achieving the organizational goals. For example, Reliance or any other company like Tata Motors, it is not just one person you see who's the CEO of the company. He's the face of the organization. But there is a group of people, there is a huge group of people who are behind him, who are working um, towards achieving the set goals of the organization. Hence, management is a group activity. The next, we move on to management as a dynamic function. Dynamic is something that is constantly changing. So, management is a dynamic function because it exists in an environment which is constantly changing. The various factors that form to be a part of a business's external environment are constantly changing. So, management is a dynamic function. It has to adapt itself to the changing environment, to the changing needs of the society. Now, for example, taking the example of coronavirus, right? Uh, a lot the management decisions that are influenced by whatever is going around external to a business is, for example, the demand for non-essential products during the coronavirus pandemic has decreased. It has decreased drastically. The graph has just fallen, right? So when there is no demand for your product as it used to be before the pandemic, it will require you to reduce the procurement of your raw material. It will also involve reducing the number of employees you have, because when the target is not so high, why will you employ a huge number of people who whose uh, whose the people who are not required to work in an organization. So it is a dynamic function, because everything that is external to a business will affect its performance, affect the management style, affect the management decision, the management practices. So management has to adapt itself to whatever is going on outside a business, right? Moving on to the next characteristic, management is an intangible force. You cannot touch management. You can touch the people who are a part of the management, but you cannot touch management. Management cannot be seen, but its presence will always be felt in the organization. The effect that a management has on the business operations will always be seen in an organization. For example, an organization where goals are being met, work is being done effectively and efficiently, the employees are happy, the customers' needs are being satisfied, etc. etc. So, the influence and the working of a good management is seen behind such an organization. Whereas, on the other hand, in an organization where employees are unhappy, goals are barely met, and the customer needs are not satisfied, so the effect of a bad management, the effect of bad management practices will be noticeable. Then we move on to the types of questions that can be asked from the two topics that we have covered. We are through with both the topics that were to be discussed in the video. One, we discussed the meaning and the definition of management. The other we discussed was the characteristics of management. Now we come to the application based questions. I have attached some questions, CBSE questions, for your reference, and generally these are the types of questions that are asked from you in your board exams. So as you can see, the first question, it looks very lengthy, it's like a full story. This is exactly the kind of questions you will see in your question paper, because one reason is you're given a flood of information, so you'll have to find out what the question is talking. There is some unsolicited information in questions like these, so you'll always have to stick to what the question means to ask, right? What is being asked from you in the question. So let's read this question and then we'll talk of the answer that follows. So Silk Enterprises decides to have a meeting of all the employees of the various departments in the organization. The objective and motive of the meeting is to tell the employees to keep the target of 20% increase in sales as the main objective of the organization uh, when they work throughout the year. So the meeting is full of ideas and regarding the employees and the processes involved. The various plans are made to harness the potential of the employees and to streamline the processes. With the passage of a few days, the external business environment checks and the capability of the organization to adapt to the situations is analyzed, and the company successfully comes out at the end of the year. It is successfully able to meet its target production. So the question asks you, what are the various characteristics of management that you can find here? Now you will read this question once, then you will read it again, and the second time you're reading it, you will highlight, you will make notes in your mind that, yeah, this is what I can spot, and these are the characteristics that I've spotted, and then you will write in the paper. The first um, characteristic that we spotted was that management is goal oriented. Where is it stated? It is stated here that target of 20% in sales, a 20% increase in sales as the main objective. So this makes it a goal oriented process. You are setting a long term achievable goal, and you're clearly stating it to the employees of an organization, right? Then the second one is that it is multi-dimensional. Now this one would have been a little tricky for you guys to find out, because it says here, I have underlined also, I haven't underlined, I'm sorry. The various plans are made to harness the potential of employees and to streamline the processes. This is the multi-dimensional aspect of management. What does as we had discussed, it involves the operation, the management of work, the management of people, and management of operations, right? The third characteristic that we spot is dynamic in nature. It is very clearly stated here that when you make a check to with the external business environment, and you check the capability of the organization to adapt to the situation, this is where it is, management is dynamic. So this is how you write your answers, this is how you go about application based questions, right? We'll discuss one more question, that is, Kanak Private Limited is a wheat producing company. Every day 5,000 bags of wheat weighing 10 kg each are produced here. So in comparison to the previous year, this year has been less, the production has been less, the number of bags produced have been less. The number is around 4,500, whereas it used to be 5,000, the general production. So now it is 4,500, which is less than the target production. It is less by 500, yeah, 500 units. The company, however, has been able to reduce the costs involved in the comparison to last year's spending on the production and packing of each bag. The quality of bags has also been up to the mark. Identify the concept of management being ignored here. Now, don't mention what the organization has been able to achieve, right? So, the answer is that the management has ignored the concept of effectiveness, as the quantity produced here is lesser. The management has been efficient because it has been able to cut down on the various costs of production, but its target production was 5,000 units. What it was able to produce, the actual production was 4,500 units. The difference was of 500 units. The costs were reduced, but the target production was not met. Hence, the management has been effective. This is another question, a very long question. You can go through it yourself, and this was just meant to give you an idea of the kind of questions that are asked and how you are supposed to go about them. Fine. So this was about this video. I'll see you in another video with the further topics that come in chapter 1, and you can post your queries, questions, suggestions, feedback in the comments, and I will try to respond to as many of them as I can. All the reasonable questions will be answered. Thank you.